here. We have a lot to go on today, and so I won't take too much of your time. I just want to say, I hope when you come into town, if you haven't been here before, see some of us who are local residents, and we can show you some of the places, tell you where to go, what to see. And if you have been here before, there's some new things. And we're going to hear about some of them today from three of our presenters from the city. So with that, I would like everybody to please introduce themselves. We go around the room and introduce themselves. That way you get to know who we all are. Would you go first?
Sure. Corey Costello, Assistant to the City Manager, City of Tehachapi, the greatest city in Kern County.
Peggy Reed, Mayor of the City of Ridgecrest.
Tom Brady, quarterback.
You're old enough.
Yeah. Is that a deflated thing?
Yeah.
Mick Gleason, Kern County.
Richard Chapman, Kern EDC, Kern County, the greatest county in the world.
There you go. There you go.
I guess over to me.
Let's
That's you.
Dani
Bazaar, I'm the General Manager for the Flight Test Museum Foundation. I actually live in Palmdale.
I'm John Joyce, publisher of the Rosamond News for the last 35 years.
Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of Indian Wells Valley Economic Development Corporation.
Dave Janis, Executive Director of China Lake Alliance.
Ashley Matos with the City of Ridgecrest and the Economic Development Department.
Greg Garrett, Tehachapi City Manager.
Ron Strand, Ridgecrest City Manager.
And Derek Hu with the Office of Small Business Programs at NACWD.
Kelly Bearden with the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center.
Hi, Maura Mirabita. I'm Dean of Career Technical Education and Workforce Development at Saracosa Community College.
Hi, I'm Dave Teasdale. I'm Director of Economic and Workforce Development Programs with the Kern Community College District, and sorry I live on the other side of the mountains.
Yeah. Bob Aslanian, the Ridgecrest Daily Independent.
Nathan Francis, Rio Tinto U.S. Borax.
Denny Klein, water boy for Tom Brady.
John Kersey, Community Planning Liaison Officer, NOS China Lake.
Rebecca McCord, Executive Assistant for the IWB Economic Development Corporation.
Clayton Fowler, Field Rep Assemblymember Vince Vaughn.
Philip Peters, a.k.a. Gronk. Working Tom Brady up there.
Suzette Caulfield, Economic Development Specialist for the Ridgecrest area.
Lauren Knowles, Kern County Board of Trade.
David Chavez, Kern County Board of Trade and Film Commission.
Carmina Morales, Kern County Administrative Office.
Elizabeth Milligan, Ridgecrest Visitor Center and Ridgecrest Film Commission.
Doug Luke, Ridgecrest Convention Business Bureau and Film Commissioner.
Aaron Fogg for Congressman Kevin McCarthy.
Lauren Fogg, Manager for Foundation and Institutional Advancement at Saracosa Community College.
Bill, I see Henry.
Bill Ferris, SpringHill Suites in Hampton Inn.
He's also our EDC representative. Thank you. Okay, so I am going to get started with the reports right now, and I would like Scott O'Neill, would you begin?
I sure will. I've got a few in my handouts. What I put together is a couple of slides on what we're doing at the Economic Development Corporation here in the Indian Wells Valley. And I'll just put these over here, so if you're interested in what I said, you can come over and get a copy. But I just want to give you a little snapshot of what we're up to and some of the things we're doing. And I'm not going to bore you, but we're the Economic Development Corporation in the Valley. We work with a lot of the other groups, and so we're trying to pull together a single message. But our whole goal is to improve the economics in the area. As you probably do know or don't know, about 85% of the economy in this valley is from the Navy. The Navy's payroll on base about $500 million a year that comes into the community. And so we're trying to broaden that out a little bit to support some of the businesses we've already got in town and to grow some new industries and to improve our quality of life. We've got our corporate office on Down Street. We've got 2 part-time employees, Rebecca and myself, and we're pretty busy. But we've got we've got a brand new board of directors that represents pretty much all of the major leadership in Ridgecrest and all the various sectors of our economic base. And we have our meetings every other month with our board. And then we have an annual meeting where we kind of set our goals for the year. And then we've got a membership drive coming up here at the beginning of February. So I'm going to just spend a couple times talking about some of our activities besides just what we do going to meetings like today. Okay, I want to focus on about 5 different topics. The first one is we're working with some developers locally. About a year ago, the base came out and said that they were hiring about 250, 300 new young professionals right out of college. And housing in Ridgecrest is pretty much saturated. And so they were making an appeal that we really need to start working towards building a lot of, more single-family and multi-family and apartments complexes in Ridgecrest. And so we've been working with a developer, a number of developers really, with the city and helping them, one, answer questions they might have about the community, provide liaison with some of the other organizations in Ridgecrest, including the city, because the developers are from out of town, they're really not familiar with our community or with the whole economic structure of our community. So we provide a lot of liaison and a lot of support to some of these developers in answering their questions and interfacing with the city. So there's an apartment complex that's getting ready to be built south end of town, right behind Walmart, our new super Walmart. And it's starting off with phase 1, about 96 apartments, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. Phase 2 will be the same, and then there's also room for single family housing out in that particular area. So that's one of the projects we've been heavily involved in. We've also been involved in a small business out at East Kern Airport that's developing I'll show you a picture here. It's a glider, it's a cargo glider. It can deliver cargo, about 750 pounds of cargo, up to about 400 miles. It's a glider, so it has to be dropped from an airplane. And depending on the altitude it's dropped at, it can fly, quite a distance. But it's very precise, so it's got a GPS unit on board, an autopilot, and it can precisely deliver 700 pounds of cargo. So we've been working with them on providing the interface with the Defense Logistics Agency and the Small Business Administration to take their glider and put electric motor in it and a propeller on it so it can have takeoff and landing capability. So it can take off by itself, and that way it wouldn't be dependent on an aircraft or a helicopter to drop it. So we're working with them. They're out at East Kern. They do some of their manufacturing down in Southern California, but they've got their first contract with the Israelis to build about 100 of these glider units, and they're going to be doing a lot of assembly and testing here in the Indian Wells Valley. And so that's really exciting because it's a high-tech industry that's pretty innovative, and it's just getting off the ground. And so another project that we've had going on is our aquatic center. Right now we've done a study on what we would like it to be. And so right now we're working with the county and probably the school board here locally to get the property. We really can't start any fundraising and do any serious planning until we get the property. So we've been working on that particular project and working that. So now another project that we've had going on is COSA. We, as you probably know or don't know, there's a geothermal power plant on our north range here at China Lake. It's about, probably about 40 miles to the north of here, but it's on government property. It generates about 150 megawatts of power off of hot water that comes out of the ground. So it's renewable power, and it's base power, so it means it's being generated 24 hours a day. But we are working with COSO and with the Navy and trying to buy that power plant so that we can make the Indian Wells Valley and the Navy here in the valley off the grid. And we think once we can do that, then it opens up a whole new set of opportunities in attracting in some of the people like Google or Microsoft who are trying to build large data centers. And so it's an initiative that's not only got strategic importance from a national security perspective about getting the Navy base off the grid, but it's also it could create huge opportunity for the valley for future jobs. So we're working with the Navy on helping them see the value of a project like that and try to raise the money so that we can actually get something like that to happen. Another project we're working on is with a local builder who is building flex homes. These are about 750 square foot high-tech homes that can be transported on a set of wheels, or they can be lifted up and moved. Anyways, they're just getting the production line started here in Ridgecrest, and we're working with some local developers to try to put some plans together to build a small neighborhood, if you will, of these flexible homes. Again, they're very high-tech, they're very highly efficient, they're well-connected, and they come completely ready to go. So all the utilities, all of the appliances and everything comes within the home. And so we're working with some local developers to see if we can't put together some plans to use some of the land we've got in the city of Ridgecrest to be able to put a little neighborhood of these together to help them, one, with their marketing, but also help us with our housing pressure and to help them get started in a new venture as far as doing high efficiency homes, single family homes. And so those are some of the things that we've got going on. We're pretty busy. We've got a number of what I call short-term plans that are working with local businesses just to help them expand their business. But then we've got some of these little bit longer-term goals so that we can, one, help stabilize the business base in Ridgecrest and grow it a little bit and to balance out our economy. So any questions? Yeah.
First, great jacket.
Oh, thank you. Well, now it's hard.
Are you saying they're going to manufacture those homes here?
Right here.
And then, so that would be for here, but that would also be for sale elsewhere?
What they're doing is they're putting their first production line together right now, and they're developing their production line so they can set up a production line anywhere.
Okay.
So they don't have to pay the transportation costs of the homes.
Okay.
So they're trying to make a mobile production line and also, mobile, if you will, movable homes. Not mobile homes, but movable homes. Question?
That's great.
Good.
Scott mentioned the base and roughly 85% economic impact that it provides. The base just completed their latest economic impact study. John Kersey, the community planning liaison officer, just gave me these, and I'm full disclosure, he gave them to me, and I'm distributing to you all so you can see what the base is about, what the impact in the valley is, and at last count it was 86%. There's a larger brochure here, and then there's a trifold that focuses only on the economic piece. So Scott, if you want to pass those that way, and we'll pass these back here. I have more of the trifolds, so there should be enough for everybody in here easily, I hope. If not, it's John's fault, because he didn't know that was the purpose that they were being used for. And I don't want to take the blame.
Thanks for ordering this weather for us. Superb job in between windstorms. Scott, great brief. Thank you very much. There's a lot of things happening in Ridgecrest that are in the Indian Wells Valley that's just, things are there's good reason to be optimistic in the Indian Wells Valley. We've got, our leadership team is growing. We've instituted Leadership Ridgecrest, which is bringing and creating indigenous leaders within our community. We have people leaving the base, retiring. You know, we just heard a pitch from Scott, who was one of the leaders out on that base, and now he's one of the leaders in town. Dave, we just got some skill across the board, and it's all coming together in a very positive way in terms of identifying who we are and where we want to go. And being a member of this organization is a key to our success, and we recognize it, and we thank you all, and we're very grateful to be a member of your organization. But there's a couple different perspectives I think are worthwhile in coming to understand why what we're doing here is so important. And a couple of those reasons are the fact that you will bring your skill sets and your talents and your good news from Rosamond and Tehachapi and Boron and all these places in Ridgecrest. We all come together and we talk about what's good about East Kern. And it's really good that East Kern is united, because East Kern, when all those flavors are put together, we have a stronger voice when we advocate for things that we need to get in order to continue the vectors that we're on. Zach Scribner, the supervisor Scribner, and myself, we understand keenly, we're keenly aware of the fact that we're 2 votes on a board of 5. And as long as we stick together on things we do, and invariably we do, we speak as a block. And that block to have sense, to have direction, and to have progress requires the economic engine behind it in order to drive the reasonableness behind what we're asking for or what we're advocating for. And so that's where we all come in together to understand that East Kern as a unit is a lot more powerful than Ridgecrest or Tehachapi or Rosamond or whatever it is. And then when you think about it even a larger scale than that, there's a great big divide that we all are very familiar with between East Kern and West Kern. And those mountains are big and tall, and you know, when I first ran for office, having been living in Ridgecrest, I didn't even know who Jim Scott was. And maybe most of you don't know who Jim Scott is. But if you go on the other side of the mountains, he's like the lead TV anchor for the lead news over there that they all, you know, they get. I mean, he's a big, almost celebrity kind. There's tons of these people over there that are the celebrities and the movers and shakers over there that we don't even know who they are. And they don't know Scott O'Neill. I mean, they don't know Dave Janis. They don't know these movers and you people. They don't know it. And together, what we need to do is find a way to leverage what we're doing in East Kern, so it bubbles up not just from your communities, but together to East Kern, and then from East Kern to Kern. And that's what we need to do, because our economies here are mostly based, they're secular economies, they're based on the DoD budget. You know, whatever the president signed, we get. We are not as impacted by the price of oil or by the price of sugar or all those commodities that perhaps the Bakersfield economic engine is driven by. So you never know who's doing what, and all we know now is that the growth, the future of Kern County is here. This is the future of Kern County. As the oil markets have their challenges and stub their toes, and they're trying to regain their footing, and they will, no doubt about it. As SGMA, these new groundwater management laws take impact. I mean, they're talking about 400,000 acres of fallowing property, productive farmland in the Central Valley. That's going to have significant economic impact. Whereas you go over here on this side of the mountains, and President Trump just signed a $700 billion budget. I was out flying across the mountains the other day. I heard Galactica 1 on the radios. He was on the radios. He was flying. And these guys are punching exo-atmospheric conditions. I mean, the future of Kern County is right here. The energy, the DoD, the aerospace, the high tech, the possibilities are endless, and they are focused in Eastern Kern today. Now, who knows what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now, but what we do know is that it's incumbent upon us, it's our responsibility to grab a hold of that, and not only grab a hold of it, but to steer it in the direction we want. And that's the value that you people bring to the discussion today. I think the future of Kern County resides on our ability to understand and steer our strengths and manage our strengths, and then collaborate with others within our reach to even bring them up and even to enhance our future. So I don't want to take that much time, but I want to express those points. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're all here, and Peggy, thanks for the weather.
Thank you. Ron, would you introduce our economic?
Yes, Ashley Matos is our administrative analyst with the city of Ridgecrest, specializing in economic
Hi, I'm Ashlyn. Just piggybacking a little bit off of what Supervisor Gleason and Mr. O'Neill had to say. Within the city, we continue to be supportive of the workforce mission, obviously at the base. One of the ways that we're doing that, like Mr. O'Neill was talking about, was bringing in housing opportunities for those people who are moving in, so multifamily housing, and then also working with developers to for single-family tract homes. Also, in that spirit, we're looking to expand hospitality services. And currently finalizing plans for 2 hotel chains to come in, which also will have parcels and potentially have parcels in front of them. So again, to kind of encourage that economic and recruitment opportunities that are so important. One of the things I think that needs to be noted, that's worth noting, is that the city continues to attend economic development conferences where we meet with the fast food casual chains, where we meet with the hospitality services. In October, we attended the International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC. No, ICSC. Yeah, shopping centers. ISCs.
XYZ.
ICSC. And we sent to committee there, so there was some people, there were some city staff, there were Councilwoman Stevens participated in that. We had some planning commissioner, Mr. Lee was also there. And so really in the spirit again of encouraging future development. So I'm new, I'm about 3 months into this, learning as I go, but I'm excited about 2019, and I think that it's going to be a great year for the city.
Thank you. All right, sir, I'll turn it back over to you, Richard.
Oh, thank you. Great, and I think I do know that Kimberly said she will be here to represent Gabby, hopefully within the next 5 minutes. But so I wanted to give you an update. Actually, first off, the state of the county, which we put on for the county, and the theme is "It's always now." So kind of right, the future, you know, and worst thing, the worldwide changes that are occurring because of East Kern, right? As you mentioned, with Virgin Galactic, and I don't know if the future is now. That's probably not as appropriate, but hopefully you can all attend. This is, I'll just hand it to you, on January the 30th at the Kern County Fairgrounds, and should have about 400 to 500 folks there. And I know some of you have been the video that we're helping the county put together. I think Scott, you had your interview recently.
Yep.
So stay tuned. I'm not sure what snippets they used, but I'm sure it was very eye-opening. So I wanted to talk, you know, the theme as we talked, the East Kern Economic Alliance, the theme is Innovation Rising, right? And we've been meeting for 10 years. And recently we recognized that Kern EDC in chatting with folks is where are the innovation centers? How do we build and enhance them? Well, we have innovation centers in East Kern, we know, right? We have China Lake, we have Mojave Aerospace Port, we have Edwards. But how do we commercialize the brilliance that is occurring on the base or spaceport to create the next generation of companies in this ecosystem, this entrepreneurial ecosystem, or entrepreneurship ecosystem? And we had 2 innovation tours where we went to Fresno to see both a private sector incubator accelerator housing about 100 companies, and a public sector one on the university campus called the WET Incubator, Water Energy Technology Center. And we had a group of public-private folks attend. It was very eye-opening where Bitwise started 6 years ago. Now they have over 300,000 square feet of space. There's a very strong correlation between startup activity and overall job growth. And so you really need that mix. We talked about diversified industries. We're number 2 in the country for diversified industries, diversification, and thanks to a large part to East Kern. But unfortunately, we're 92nd out of 100, according to Brookings Institution, for young firms. Those are firms between 0 and 5 years old. Fresno's 30th. And so we realized that you need a mix of all types of companies. And so our tours were, hopefully, we went to San Luis Obispo earlier this year to come back with ideas. So we have, we're launching, actually the first meeting will be on January 31st. The first meeting will be at Bakersfield, but we plan to come out to East Kern. This is just the first working group with a facilitator. And we're calling it the Kern Initiative for Talent and Entrepreneurship, or KITE. So when you think of a kite, right, what is a kite? You launch it into the air. There's a string to guide these new companies through turbulent times, windy times. The point is that talking about initiatives, there are so many potential incubators, accelerators. There's a Kern Venture Group that's starting, which is angel investors, Kern Venture Group. That means they're going to fund companies throughout the county. If you've met J.P. Lake, he's starting that. There's a new initiative called Start It Up, mentoring program for business. We want to get all these folks in the room, including representatives from communities, and talk about what they're doing. We're concerned there could be overlaps, there are redundancies, and the point is we need to leverage your resources and make sure that we're coordinating. You know, not to say that it's kind of, we talk about selling your community, but also selling the region. Those two can work in concert. So I wanted to hand out just kind of the basic ideas behind this. And I think the time is now. When you hear what's happening in our communities in terms of shared space, incubator space, accelerators, mentoring programs, it's really exciting. I'll pass this. And so on January the 31st, actually at the Kern Community College District offices, Saracosa will be invited, Saracosa College to be there. But again, it's critical that the communities are represented. So the first meeting will be more about the educators and the communities, government talking. Later on, we'll bring in the businesses. Obviously the banks and others will be interested in financing side. But this is part of this theme of making sure that we're building this infrastructure that's conducive to growing startup businesses. Because that's where most of the growth is. And we know that 80 to 90% of jobs created in our community are for companies that are here. We love the big successes, right, with Amazon coming and L'Oreal and other companies, but the real growth are the companies that are here that are growing maybe 5 to 10 to 15 a year. Talking quickly about incubators and accelerators, they house companies, but the key to the success is there's usually an attorney on site, a CPA, various types of assistance to help these companies grow. And 85% of companies that are started in your community or incubated in your community stay in your community. That's the best way to retain talent, growing our own. And so that we look forward to your participation and partnership, working with us on this. And we're working on the branding, so you'll probably see something with a kite. But it's very exciting. And again, going back to the theme right where we live is innovation rising. And so we're excited, kind of the genesis is coming from here and how do we move forward. And so more to come, and we'll give you an update on that meeting in 2 months. But again, I'll be sending out a formal invite to community representatives. Thank you. I can just stay on it.
Yeah, he's coming. He's getting a chair.
Oh, Kimberly, perfect time.
You're up, Kimmy.
Hey, Scott, can we get that chair? Someone sit next to him? Get a chair right here.
I just flew in from another wonderful luncheon with the Building Industry Association. Talking about growth, how wonderful. So, Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance, that's who I am. And for those of you that don't know who I am, you should know who I am, right? Right now we're in the middle of our Roundtable Report season, which is, my favorite time of year. We're in the 4th month, so I'm really excited to get this done and to the printers and ready to go. We will launch the Roundtable Report, the 2019 report, on February 22nd at the Antelope Valley Business Outlet Conference. And then our March 21st event, we will unveil it to the rest of the world that isn't at the Outlet Conference. We'll have our rollout from 11 to 1 on the 21st of March. Talking about aerospace is in our DNA. That's our theme this year. Centerfold theme. We've got lots of storytelling. Dani's helped me with some content for the history. For those of you that aren't from here, you may not know all the history, but there's a lot of it, and Dani has helped me. A lot of our aerospace practitioners have helped me with that storytelling. So that's going to be our centerfold story. We are going to continue to celebrate our largest industry cluster, which is aerospace and aviation, obviously, across Aerospace Valley. And then we will continue to talk more about what's happening in Mojave Air and Spaceport with our smaller companies, what's happening with startups like you were talking about, how we're growing our own, and starting all the way from K through 12 educators, making sure that our talent is also grown and kept here. And that starts with our educators and making sure that our teachers and our educators are listening to business, and business is communicating back to the school districts and talking about what kind of tools and resources our students need to be able to fill the jobs that are here. If I was going to stay in my role forever, I would try and get 40,000 people off the 14 freeway every day and into jobs locally at home. I'm trying, man, I'm trying. That's all I can do. So, what else is happening? everything is happening right now. It's a crazy time. The home builders, it was an interesting event at lunchtime. The home builders are celebrating the fact that up here in North LA County, Southeast Kern County, we actually have home building happening. We actually have growth happening. We actually have nimble local governments who are processing permits faster than anywhere else in Southern California. And the BIA is looking at our region once again and saying, hey, we should look at what's happening in the Antelope Valley because they're getting it right. And so I want to share that with all of you because it's important that all of us, when we're out there talking about our region, we know what those hitting and missing points are. Is that we've got nimble local government who knows how to get it done. We've got nimble local government who knows how to process permits faster than anywhere else. And we've got lots of land and affordability that's nowhere else in Southern California. So if we can all keep hitting those high points and those talking points in every group that you're out in front of, use our roundtable report, use all the tools and resources that all of you guys in this room also have. Collectively, we can remind land developers and home builders that this is a place where they can do business and thrive. And that's super important going forward. If we're not growing, we're dying. And there's a bunch of Southern California that's not going to be able to grow anymore because they can't. So they're going to come to us. We better be ready. And this is a really, really exciting decade where we're going to get some good things done. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So let's say the second, I believe Zach, Michael, are you your second district report?
Yeah, there's since Supervisor Gleason's here.
Yeah, I talked with Zach last night.
Yeah, Zach said
and we talked about what we wanted to do.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
My Board of Trade. Happy New Year's, everyone. Over the past year, we've joined with Kern County Television, formerly known as KGO, to become the county-wide communications department. We still function under Board of Trade. We still have we do economic development and tourism and film. We've also added a new employee, Savannah Maldonado, who is our social media director, and we're increasing our county recognition through social media. And so look on your Facebook for County of Kern. We're also developing TripAdvisor as Visit Kern. One of the things that we do, and as you know, that one of the sometimes unrecognized areas of economic development is the film and tourism. Yet Kern County brings in almost $1.5 billion a year in those two industries. And that's money to our communities. And the Board of Trade gives, under the direction of the Board of Supervisors, gives $100,000 in grant money towards our tourism. And this year, the ones that are especially important to East Kern economics we gave out this year was Indian Wells Valley EDC, received $99.50. The Ridgecrest Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Doug Luke and his team, received $5,000. Kern River Conservancy, almost $5,000. Kernville Chamber of Commerce, $7,000. Friends of Jawbone, $8,000. Kern River Chamber of Commerce, $9,000. So we gave out a substantial amount to East Kern, which is one of our biggest income areas for the tourism and film. David Chavez, who's my co-worker, we work together, has a report on the filming that we've done over this last year.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick report. We get most of our filming is actually East Kern. They like the roads out here. Willow Springs does a lot of film production. In 2017, we had about 143 film permits. In 2018, we had 148. And although they're pretty close, there was a significant change in feature films. So in 2017, we had 7. In 2018, we had 14. And that also increased music videos, photography, and there are large film productions like Captain Marvel, Top Gun 2, Ford versus Ferrari, and 6 Underground, which is filmed by Michael Bay. So one of the benefits of Kern County is our permits are free, and we're pretty quick with getting turnaround of film permits. We have a lot of film-friendly cities and areas within the county. So again, if you guys have any questions or want to look something up, our website's filmkern.com.
Top Gun 2, where do they film in Kern, East Kern?
The airport. The East Kern Airport.
Yeah, they're at airport.
Tom Cruise out there almost regularly.
Yeah. And on the base.
They were also at the naval base. Doug Luke is the film commissioner for that.
So Filmy's looking up, want to increase those numbers next year, and yeah, keep the progress going forward.
So how do we go about building a video of all of the capabilities and assets that we've got in East Kern, so that we can start telling our story from a regional perspective about aerospace, about about renewables, about the mineral mining that's going on, and all that. That is the future of Kern County. And I personally think what's good about that too is it's out of sync with agriculture and oil. So from a county perspective, we could really stabilize our base revenues, and so, but we've got to start telling our story.
Yeah, you were there, and some other folks were there, with Governor Wilson, retired Governor Wilson.
Also
and,
senator. He was also a senator.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful conversation, and it's important we understand it, because it was a beautiful conversation because it was the first time I was ever in a room on the other side of the mountains with some heavy players over there, where the focus was on collaboration between East and West Kern. And so what we're doing is I've assigned Gronk to lead and orchestrate at the turn of the year an event, build a process, help push a process, foster a process to promote just what you're talking about. So the wheels are in motion. How that manifests itself is going to be up to us, and you'll hear more about it. Gronk, did you want to talk about anything that you're doing to get that thing going?
Just, I kind of echo what you were saying earlier. I think there's definitely a disconnect. I'm sure all of you have noticed it as well, from the east to the west side of the mountains. And I would like to, we're going to be meeting later, Dave Janus and Scott O'Neill and I, and start the conversation with how do we bridge that gap? How do we make sure people over there know what's going on over here and can get involved? How do we make sure that everybody's taking advantage of all the opportunities that are available out there? And as that process goes along, I'll definitely be back to update you guys and get as much input as possible. But we're just kind of starting that conversation right now, and I'm really excited about it.
That's not easy. It sounds like it's not easy. I mean, the Bakersfield, Californian, the largest print in Kern County, I think it is, right? We don't get it over here. Jim Scott, we don't get TV 17 or TV 23 or 20. We don't get any of that stuff over here. There is a divide, and it would have been my dream to help bridge that, and I've just been roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and I've become convinced that it's not an easy problem, and economics is going to be the engine that drives that effort. It can't be just sitting around talking about it, because there's no notional way. I mean, you think it's intuitive, but it's just really difficult to do.
And we talk about innovation tour going to other places, but I'd like to bring West Kern people to East Kern.
Right.
I mean, that's an eye-opening. I know people that I work with every day that have never been to East Kern. I mean,
right.
So how do we get those folks to see?
Well, and like the supervisor was saying about the oil industry, it's stubbing its toe kind of, and with oil prices coming down and being fairly volatile over the last few years. The mode in which they conduct business over there is going to have to change. I mean, I came from the oil industry. I didn't have much working knowledge of the east part of Kern until I went to work for the supervisor. And there are definitely some opportunities over there for them to learn from what we're doing here, from the different innovations that are taking place over here, because that's not an industry that, I mean, it's a backbone of Kern County, but the way they've done business for years, times are changing and they're going to have to change with it. And I think that some of the laws in California that have been changing lately, as far as the amount of renewable energy that's going to have to be produced in the years to come, geothermal here at COZO, that's going to be a huge part of it. I think that might be a good start as far as bringing oil industry over here and learning a little bit more about geothermal and how that process happens, and getting them more engaged and diversifying what they do a little bit.
So I have a comment. This is a great conversation because East Kern is isolated, but don't let ourselves be isolated, right? Richard and I started this East Kern Economic Alliance several years ago because of this exact conversation that we're having. However, as I scan across, there's about 6 or 7 people that come to our meetings. We're in Ridgecrest, that's great. We're full of Ridgecrest people, and I'm being critical. We need to work together, right? Come to Mojave, come to Rosamond, come to Tehachapi. We've been trying to do this and trying to pull people out of their towns and their regions so that we can work together, because we have an amazing story to tell. We are the future, right? But working together, Kern County is an amazing place. But I would encourage all of my Ridgecrest friends in the room to attend these meetings, and let's start getting it going, right? Let's put some fuel to the fire and get this going.
I'd like to ask a question, because we have a meeting, we call it Community Collaborative, and it's entities from all the governments locally that get together. And I've said for the past few months, I'd like to see us go to the other side of the valley and say, we're not going to get you to come here. I recognize that we're not going to get many people from Bakersfield, the big money people, the people who understand how growth happens. We want them to come here, but we're not going to do that. So let's, instead of wishing and begging and promoting, let's go over there and have an East Kern summit in West Kern and have them come and see who we are, what we are. We're just not those people on the other side of the mountain. And I said we will even fund it to make it happen so that all of them understand who we are. We all know who they are. We know there isn't any way you can be on this side of the valley and not understand West Kern. But East Kern, as somebody was saying at lunch today, they didn't even know where Ridgecrest was. I mean, I understand that. I'm not making fun of them. We don't sing our song very well. So I want us to start singing loud and strongly as a unit. So we all say, look at us, this is who we are, this is what we can do to benefit you, because we are the growth area for now. We're going to hope it's going to be the growth area for the next 50 years, but we're going to work together, because working together gets us all in a better position. And so to follow along with that and to follow what you said, have more events over here. And if I have to go take a bus, because 15 years ago, I remember when every county department head came over to Ridgecrest, and they came over on the buses, and we took them around the base, and we took them everywhere. We haven't seen them in a long time. I know we don't have the funding to do that kind of thing anymore, so let's do it ourselves. Let's make it happen, because we can. Nobody else can do that. Nobody can sing our song like we can. So start singing.
At Scott's presentation, I think people would be blown away. That's one piece of East Kern. And in West Kern, if they saw it, I mean, that's out of this world, literally.
I think something the oil industry would be interested in is that we're working right now to set up a pilot plant up at COSO to take the CO2 that's dumped out of that process up there into the air to do direct conversion of CO2 to jet fuel. The science exists right here at China Lake. It was developed on the base. And so we're trying to get enough money together to put a pilot together so that we can start capturing that CO2 to benefit the environment, but also to benefit the alternative fuels industries and other industries that can use that as the ethanol as a base molecule.
We looked at the region's exposure, and you talk about the R&D and the job creation here. A lot of the West Kern industries are the automation well. There's exposure in terms of job loss. Bakersfield area is #2 in the country for risk of job loss due to automation. Now, technology is good, but I bet most of your industries actually don't have that. It's the flip side. The upside potential is much greater.
And, but you, I mean, I like to tell people, a dinner that Mick was referring to was really, I thought, an eye-opener for both of us from the Eastern Kern and also from the attendees from the Western Kern. Because when we started really talking that night about the assets that we've got here locally in Kern County, there are states in this union that would die for what we've got. When you start looking at alternative energy, sun, oil, agriculture, aerospace, space access, you know, the DOD. I mean, we have got so much to build off of. It's incredible. But yet we don't value it right. Sorry about my soapbox.
Well, the regional branding initiative, you see that we're harder on ourselves than outsiders actually have a higher opinion. So how do we become these ambassadors, right? To be less modest, to brag.
Oh, we've got to.
Yeah, so.
Because it won't happen unless we push it to happen.
So we need to push.
Yep.
So that's the key point. I mean, we understand the problem, we understand the issue, we don't understand the magnitude of it, but we need to push. And we need to maybe have the next meeting, East Kern meeting over there. I think that was a great idea. I thought that was a great idea. And I think we need to have a follow-up meeting, and we got to ask key players, economic big guns in the Central Valley, to host us, and we'll host them, and just talk about technologies that are in their benefit and that are happening right here.
Absolutely.
So we got to build a timeline, we got to bring a schedule, and we got to make it happen. I think that's good.
And the next, actually, East Kern meeting is the day after the Kern Economic Summit. I know there'll be a panel on innovation. So just to let you know, March 14th is, we can move that. I mean, we can, if that date, well, I'd love to, host it in Bakersfield. But just so you have that on your calendars, March the 14th. My anniversary. Better get something for my wife.
How many years?
27.
Oh.
Oh, she's taking Why are you looking at him?
Yeah, right.
That's okay. That's okay, Tom.
Sorry I admitted you from the, we do appreciate the work you do, though.
Oh, thank you. That's a tough crowd. I missed one meeting in 6 years and I'm off the agenda. I'll make sure I'm at the next one. Well, and just to follow on a little bit on that conversation, I have students, I have 5 or 6 students that you have as interns each year. And one of the questions I always ask them during the interview process, have you ever been to East Kern? And oftentimes, more specifically, is have you ever been to Ridgecrest? And the answer, beyond Tehachapi, is probably about 10% of them say yes. So it is one of my goals as they intern and they go through the process of working with some of our small businesses in East Kern, is that I have a tendency of dragging them out here. And we've had a couple of them last year that made it to Ridgecrest, and we're going to have more during this next year throughout East Kern. So the problem is, not only the business people and the adults don't know about Ridgecrest and what's happening, but neither do the kids as they're growing up.
Can we leverage those resources to get this thing going, this effort going, to drive home this particular point that we're trying to drive home today?
Sure. Yeah,
So we can get them.
I've talked with Jay Thompson not too long ago. You were over there, and but I'd like to talk to you guys some more about it. Absolutely.
Sounds great, Philip.
Gronk.
That's right. Gronk. Oh, and I heard all the Ridgecrest people talk about a great Ridgecrest event, the Indian Wells Valley Outlook Conference coming up on the 28th of February. So I wanted to make sure that got out to people. If you really want to learn more about Ridgecrest, come to that event. And also, be prepared, though, because if the Patriots win the Super Bowl, and you might hear Gronk's boss bragging.
Mike?
So just a quick few things about the SPDC and what's going on. We just wrapped up another year. We had a great year. We worked with 400 small businesses or startup small businesses. Of those, they raised about $14 million in capital for their businesses. Those are a couple of the key numbers that we look at. And also, as far as jobs, since we are based in the San Joaquin Valley, we cover all of Kern County, which is a huge issue in the San Joaquin Valley, are jobs still. And so, whereas nationally it's not as well tracked, we had over 200 jobs that were created or retained by our clients last year. So we're proud of those numbers and continue to work with those. We consider ourselves kind of an expert in the funding of small businesses. And one of our focuses in 2019 is going to be the Small Business Innovation Research Program, also known as America's Seed Fund. And I was really glad to see Scott have a slide that showed Gates Enterprises applying for an SBIR grant. Because SBIRs, they are about $2.5 billion funded by the 11 federal agencies through their R&D budgets. And in Central California, the 15 counties, they go from San Joaquin County, the top of the San Joaquin Valley, down to Kern, to the Pacific Ocean and to Nevada. Of the 332 that were funded last year, 4 of them were in that region. 0 in the San Joaquin Valley. So there's a lot of work that we have to do, and there's a lot of people. We do have a webinar coming up on the subject on March 6th, but we've had webinars and we've had presentations, 1 or 2 of these a year, but we really have to get kind of the infrastructure going behind this R&D in order to attract this money. There's $280 million that are going to California firms. I think earlier this week I mentioned that the city of Torrance had 33 successful awards this year, yet 4 for 15 counties in the Central California region. So there's a lot of work that we need to do and try to attract that money that's out there. And these are the very, very basis of our innovation and technology companies. This is the first step. This is the R&D. If they already have the intellectual property, the IP, they can't even apply for this money.
So that's the key, is that it's government money, but they get to keep the IP if they develop it under SBIR.
And they don't have to dilute, like if they have some type of equity investor, and they don't have to pay it back. They keep their IP. And we had a meeting with Scott last year, and we talked a little bit about SBIR. And the Navy, I believe, because we've recently hired a former resident of Ridgecrest in Cameron Bruce as our SBIR consultant. And sure, Cameron's not in our backyard anymore, but still we have the power of Zoom and a lot of technology. And he's going to be working with us to try to move this closer, because one of the strategies that we want to talk about was all of these projects usually flow down from the 11 departments. DOD is huge, but also USDA and many others have huge amounts of money that they put out. But they flow down, so you have to pretty much respond to what they're asking for. But there are potentially mechanisms to where we have projects or ideas that actually flow up. And maybe we take a project to the Navy that sounds good for innovation and technology. So that is going to really be our emphasis, and we really want to do, there's an event actually the day before the Economic Summit in Riverside. And Riverside and San Bernardino counties have realized they have the same problem. And it's a problem that's very sensitive to the federal agencies, that so much of the monies are not going to these rural, large areas of California. And so they're doing a national SBIR that I hope to attend and actually try to get one over into Kern County. But there's going to be a real emphasis that we do is going to be on this America's Seed program. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about, we just completed and wrapped up our most recent filming of a success story. If you go to our website, you'll see the company that we did a couple of years ago that was based in East Kern, being in Tehachapi. And actually, our next business that actually has its roots in East Kern as well. And it's a company that started as a home-based business in Tehachapi. They've now relocated after expanding twice to Bakersfield because they needed more space and they needed access to more employees. But it's thermal energy solutions, and they're going to be on our website in about a month. So it's interesting that over our last 2 video successes that we've had, they both originated from East Kern. So that's all I got, so thank you.
Nathan, did you have any?
I'm not inspired for on the community, but for Rio Tinto US Borax, we're just happy to be able to sponsor this year's State of the County on January 3rd. So
like
shamelessly plug it once again. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, thank you.
So. And your new, is it Richard Cohen who will be?
Richard Cohen is our new managing director, who replaced Isabel Broussard. So yeah, you'll have an opportunity to meet him at that event as well.
Cool. So I understand Cal City was not able to attend, or Kern River Valley, or Mojave. Mojave, wait, we have Mojave. Oh, you are
Cal
gonna.
City's sending apologies. It's actually our new councilwoman, Tammy Johnson, but she had a medical issue. She was
Okay.
very excited to be here, sends her apologies.
Photogenic.
Thank you. Rosamond has very good news. First, 22 hallucinogenic dispensaries have been whittled down to 8 that are on a 4 to 5 month string, thanks to Supervisor Gleason and some of the other supervisors. We're very happy about that. Cleans up the town. Please don't falter. Second, even more exciting is we now have a hospital, an urgent care facility that is a satellite of Palmdale Regional Medical Center. Opens up on Tuesday. We've been wanting to have that for all the 35 years I've been publishing the Rosamond News. Now, for any rich people in the audience, we need a bank. We had a bank.
We had 2 banks.
But we had 2 banks, that's right. But we would like to have a bank. We have hope here of a mobile bank, which certainly
I
would
have
be.
a contact for you. Talked to him yesterday.
All right, yeah, we're ready. I'm happy to be here, happy to learn all the good things that are happening, and look forward to serving.
Can I, since it's Rosamond we're talking about, can I hold my piece here? Give me one.
I'm glad you're here, Dani.
So so you can all see me. I'm Dani Bazaar. Like I said, I'm the general manager for the Flight Test Museum Foundation. Many of you in this room, maybe none of you in this room, may be aware that there is a flight test museum on Edwards Air Force Base property that was built by the foundation back in 1999, open to the public. You just have to drive on the base, show your driver's license, go in and visit the museum. It's only a 12,000 square foot facility, but we have 85 airplanes scattered throughout Edwards Air Force Base. 9/11 came along, they moved the security gate on Edwards 8 miles out, and it's been off limits to the general public since then. So we did start back after 9/11 to look at the process of putting a world-class museum outside the west gate at Edwards Air Force Base. We called it Thinking Outside the Gate. And it's been a long process, but I am pleased to announce that on Tuesday of this week, I had 2 twin-engine scrapers, 3 bulldozers, backhoes, road graders. We broke ground on the new museum on the west side, outside the west gate on Rosamond Boulevard. We have a 10 acres, it's a 34-acre site, but 10 acres are dedicated to the new museum. So we started grading and site preparation on Tuesday, and that'll be about 3 weeks, and then we'll start doing infrastructure, underground utilities, foundations, and all that. And we hope to have the first 60,000 square foot display hangar up by middle to late summer of next year. And then we start on phase 2, 3, and 4, which is adding another 60,000 square foot hangar, as well as a STEM education center, because every aircraft that Edwards has in our museum is a teaching platform. They're all test aircraft, every one of them. Some of them are the only one of their kind, some were the first of their kind, or technology demonstrators that then led the way towards things like the space shuttle and hypersonics and things like that. So we actually teach master's degree courses in our museum classroom now to the test pilot school. And we also have a star base on Edwards Air Force Base now, which is geared to 5th grade students, and it serves only the Southeast Kern School District. So Muroc School District, Boron, Rosamond, Mojave, sorry. So we'll have ultimately 4 or 5 classrooms inside the museum so that we can continue the STEM education programs that we're doing out there. What this means for Southeast Kern, especially the communities of Rosamond, Mojave, and the northern LA County area, is at our 2 museums, so the museum on the base now and our annex at Blackbird Air Park in Palmdale, this past year we had about 50,000 visitors to those museums. And that's with the main museum being off limits to the general public unless it's by scheduled tour once a month. We can take 40 people from the general public on the base. The new museum, our traffic estimates now at this point are about 150,000 visitors per year. I get emails every single day from our website from foreign tourists that want to come see our museum, and how can they do that? And I have to tell them they can't. But I always tell them we're building it. So It's been a long process. It's been a 17-year process to get to where we're at now. Ultimately, it'll be a $10 million facility when it's completed. We've got enough money to get the first phase done, and the foundation is actively raising money, looking for grants and things like that. We still need another $7 million to finish the project over the next 5 years. But it's great news for Southeast Kern because 150,000 people in Rosamond may not like the traffic on Rosamond Boulevard and Sierra.
We like it, we like it.
But it opens the door for hospitality development in Rosamond beyond just the Sierra Highway hotels that are out there. It opens the door for more large chain restaurants like a Denny's or Outback or anything like that to come to the Southeast Kern area, because all those visitors are going to want to eat, they're going to want to sleep. We get a lot of rental RV travelers coming through there, the foreign tourists from Germany and England and France that rent RVs, and then they travel, and as they're heading towards Yosemite, they're going to want to stop at the Flight Test Museum and see what amazing airplanes we have there. But there's right now, there's not too many places in Rosamond for them to eat and sleep. There's a Taco Bell, there's a Tom's, there's a McDonald's, and that's about it, and a couple of small cafes. There's no hotels that are large enough to handle large traffic, and foreign tourists don't want to stay in a small hotel on Sierra Highway. I'm not bashing those people that own those businesses. Their business owners got to make a living, but places like this, there's room for growth in Southeast Kern once this is up and running and the visitors start coming through.
So you've built it with private money?
It's 100% private funding.
So no Air Force dollars. And then
No.
have you talked to the museum here, the Weapons Museum?
I have not.
So we need to get you in touch with them because I think we could learn a lot from your experiences in building that down there. And we could probably collaborate some too on looking at different exhibits that you might want to share between.
More than happy to.
So.
Kern County has a museum organization in Bakersfield that could reach out and perhaps lend a hand also.
Yeah,
But I just wanted to, that's why I drove all the way up here today, was to get that news out that this will be a world tourism destination. Our Blackbird Air Park Annex in Palmdale, it's only open 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. We get 300 to 400 visitors a weekend in there. The overwhelming majority of those are foreign tourists. I've had literally busload of Chinese tourists pull in at 3:30 one afternoon, and they literally bought everything in my gift shop and left, which is funny because everything in our gift shop was made in China.
Do you own those aircraft? Or does
The Air Force owns them. So the symbiotic relationship between the foundation that I run and the museum is that they can't ask for money. We cannot charge admission to people coming to the museum, so that's even a better attraction for a tourist, but they can't ask for money. So they maintain the aircraft, they maintain the museum exhibits and operate the museum with DoD employees, and then the foundation provides all the money that they need for restoration of aircraft, for acquisition of aircraft, and things like that.
So this is a great example. Because Kern County has a museum, and their museum is Kern County Museum, and they say, here's Kern County. And they talk about ag, and they talk about oil, and they talk about a whole bunch of stuff. There isn't one thing about Edwards Air Force Base or China Lake in the Kern County Museum. Nothing. It's just not there. Because their paradigm is not holistic. They don't see Kern County for what it is.
Where are the other people on the other side of the hill?
That's the that's the issue. Yeah. So if we could fix this problem with Kern County, if we could get a couple assets down there or a couple bombs from China Lake. I mean, I think we really said a clear.
That's Edwards is where the sound barrier is broken. We invented guided missiles here. It's historical. We could really tell a story.
Right. There is at the Air Force Research Lab up on the hill there by Boron. That's where every one of our solid rocket boosters and the Apollo, Mercury, Gemini programs were all developed and tested there. They have a museum on that hill, but nobody can get to it. And so we're going to be moving their assets from the Air Force Research Lab down to our new museum as well, so that we can show off the fact that that hill up there has a huge impact on the history of space. So a lot of good things. If you don't know, Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier at Edwards October 15th, 1947. That's Mach 1. Since then, Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3, Mach 4, 5, 6, 6.7 is the official record set by Senator Pete Knight when he was a captain, I think it was. in the X-15. So every major milestone in high-speed flight took place in the Southeast Kern, and this guy's in the R-2508 Aerospace, which runs from Edwards all the way up through China Lake and beyond. So we are the most historical aviation area in the world, bar none. Kitty Hawk flew and did their thing, and then everything came here. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good. Good job. Good job.
All right, first of all, I appreciate what Supervisor Gleason said and what you brought up as well. This kind of, and what Greg sort of mentioned, this sort of brings up something that Greg and I had talked about. You know, Tehachapi sits in a unique position between, we're like that dividing line, East and West Kern. We identify more with East Kern, but we're right on that border, really. And so, you know, telling that story of East Kern, and maybe not, like you said, we want to be able to get everybody out here to Ridgecrest, but if we want to take the East Kern story, and Greg and I had talked about hosting some sort of East Kern Business Summit, business conference, maybe it's an East Kern Innovation Conference that we could host in Tehachapi, so we could bring, it's 40 minutes, now granted, a lot of folks in Bakersfield, the 40-minute drive is a long time, but 40 minutes to be in Tehachapi, we get the East Kern and everybody's story, the Indian Wells Valley story, and the Edwards Air Force Base story, and what we have happening in energy, mining with U.S. Borax, Rio Tinto. It would be fantastic. So I know that might be not this summer, but maybe it's a year off and all part of this discussion we're having, to where we sort of meet in the middle, I guess you can say, and kind of figure out how to tell our story in a setting that isn't too far from everybody in the county, because we're so spread out. So just an idea on that. As far as Tehachapi stuff goes, we're dealing with, it's not really a retail boom, but it's getting there. Our Walmart project broke ground last July, moving swiftly. As a result of that, there was just recently approved the last piece from the Planning Commission, and the Tehachapi City Council approved the parcelization of the Red Apple Pavilion directly across the street from Walmart. That's going to bring in initially 2 phases of retail. The first gas station on the corner, Panda Express, Carl's Jr., one other pad that they are in the process of securing a tenant for. And so that's going to really make our commercial corridor, get it close to coming to fruition of what it was supposed to be when it was brought up several years ago and developed. And then there's another small retail center just up the road that was already approved, what's going to be the anchor of a orthodontics office. So that whole area is starting to come together on the retail front. Our hospital's been open since November. New Adventist Health Tehachapi Valley, which serves a lot of East Kern and the Tehachapi Valley Healthcare District. They are doing very brisk business. Adventist Health was a great partnership. I know today they announced that they're expanding into Delano as well. Of course, they have plans to build an additional hospital in Bakersfield. The footprint of Adventist Health and the work they're doing in the communities in Kern County has been felt pretty immediately, and they're doing a lot more than expected business-wise at the new Tehachapi Hospital. I think really it came down to trust of a new facility for ER care and things like that, and to have that at your fingertips is drawing more patients in, and it's been great. And that's also generating more interest around the hospital, the Capitol Hills area, which was initially planned out 30 years ago, and now we just had a specific plan introduced for that area. But they're out there, and also been a hotel. They're going to the Planning Commission for their approval next month. So they're trying to really look around the hospital area property for hotels and supporting medical out there. So that has really helped spur development in the Capitol Hills area. We were at Edwards Air Force Base earlier. I know some of you in the room were there as well. It was a great meeting of community partnerships, and I like the term that they used out there, which was lowering the fence, not getting rid of it, but just lowering it a little bit, and some things that were previously not allowed on base, and getting those things to help them succeed and help our community succeed as well. So if you weren't there, I'm sure you'll be drawn into some sort of discussion from that very soon. So that was a very effective meeting, I think, and there's some things that definitely everybody can take from that. Downtown, and this kind of goes into what they were talking about with one of the Tehachapi businesses, but our downtown area, thanks to some private investment from Tehachapi business owners, has again seen another round of revitalization. From the public sector, we're about to unveil and open officially the downtown transit center. It's a park and ride, it's public parking, it's a transit center for regional buses and some of the private carriers. They used to have to turn off by our Kmart and go through a residential neighborhood, make a U-turn or whatever to get back to go east or westbound. Now we've got bus turnouts on each side of Tehachapi Boulevard, 100+ parking spots in downtown to help with a lot of the carpool folks we have in our community. They're taking up the Albertsons parking and things like that, and it's so it's an opportunity. Sort of we leased the project or leased the property from the railroad. It was an old lumber yard that it was abandoned years ago, and so that is about to be open here. Hopefully the next couple of days, start parking cars, and then it looks like February we'll officially flip the switch on getting the buses to start using it once we get some bus shelters put in place. But that other business, Whirlwind and Solar, is across the street, and they have expanded. They took what was the oldest commercial building in the city of Tehachapi that was left standing after the 1952 earthquake. They actually have retrofitted it. I mean, it was a tear down, but the investors are so appreciative of the history that they have renovated this building. And so Whirlwind Solar, which is doing wind and solar support across the nation, their headquarters will be in Tehachapi, in downtown Tehachapi. And so that they're going to add some training elements to it. They purchased a lot across the street. They're looking at doing a kind of a wind energy display / training ground, so folks can actually walk through and see these some of the assets that are used in wind energy. For a few years, trying to get the grant. We have the grant. We're trying to spend it really and get new crossings at a couple of our spots downtown up to grade, ADA compliant, safe for bikes, visually better, new fencing, so people aren't just walking across the tracks whenever they feel like that they have to go to a crossing. So that project hopefully here will get going very soon. And speaking of what Kimberly had mentioned earlier, housing, continues to be something we are seeing developers come to us now. We are in some early stages with a few for some pretty substantial projects that we hope that will help meet some of the needs. They are reasonable. They're not affordable housing. They're not super expensive housing. They're reasonable housing, which is great for a lot of things. And depending on what happens with the housing market this year, some are expecting a huge decline, another bust, but some are expecting it to remain sort of status quo. I think where we're at price-wise on a lot of our houses now, even with the increase we saw last year, even if prices were to go down, it's not going to shatter the market, so to speak. I think a lot of communities are in the same boat, so we keep that in mind with some of these new developments as well. So the housing is exciting as we get closer to those projects as they seek approval. I think that's it.
I have a question.
Yes.
There was talk about putting a platform at the Tehachapi Loop to make it more accessible. Is that project moving forward?
So the Friends of the Depot are in sort of working on that. I don't know exactly the last.
So the answer is yes. Kern County Roads is working closely with Friends of the Depot. It's been designed and will go for construction this summer. That's a big tourist draw. When we talk about tourism, tourism is a big industry in our county. Hundreds of millions. As a matter of fact, tourism in Tehachapi is $100 million a year annually. A lot of people visit our depot downtown, but yes, the platform is moving forward thanks to a lot of volunteers. The Broom Ranch has donated the land, and Kern County Roads will be constructing it.
It's definitely fitting because it's an engineering landmark, milestone, and you go onto little tiny 2-lane Woodford Tehachapi Road, and it's basically just a dirt turnout where this thing is at, and we have tour buses stopping there, people are taking pictures and running across the road, so it is it's definitely needed out there, and I think it'll definitely make it safer and more attractive for people to visit, for sure. Thank you.
Right, so we have, we moved the Kern County portion, but of course, last but not least, I know Carmina is going to talk about the 3 new economic developers. We're all excited. I guess everyone in the room should be excited. We have reinforcements, as you said, economic development champions, and our obligation as EDC, steward of the county strategy, is to help as much as we can and mentor and be a resource for these 3 new folks. So excited about to hear updates.
Okay, so hi everyone. So after working with you all for several months, I'm happy to announce that we finally have our 3 new contract economic developers that will be working out here in East Kern. So we were placed on the last item of the agenda for the same reason that we wanted 2 of our economic developers to have plenty of time to arrive here because they're already attending meetings and getting going. So Suzette Caulfield, if you can please stand up. She will be working with the Ridgecrest community. Amanda Barnes, who will be working with we're so excited. Their first day was January 7th, this Monday, and on that first day they had a full day of learning from Richard Chapman, Kelly Bearden, and several of our different departments, including planning, our roads, public works. They got a full training so that they could, so that we could ensure that their roles out here are successful and fulfilled with all the knowledge that they could get. I feel bad because there was a lot of information, but we're happy because we know that they'll be doing great things out here. So for those of you who are not familiar, these three ladies will be working on implementing the strategies that were identified on a previously DoD-funded economic diversification study for East Kern. So after several months of working with you all, we finally have our three economic developers, and of course it wouldn't be possible without all of your assistance. Greg Garrett for offering and proposing that we have a workshop after we did receive the announcement of receiving the funding, so that we can make sure that we all were in the same room together and make sure that rolling out this project would be successful. California City, Ridgecrest, Mojave, everybody, the involvement and collaboration amongst all of the communities to get this project rolling has been phenomenal, and it's been an honor working with you all. And we're excited to have these three ladies begin working, and you'll be seeing more of them. So.
Can we get the three of them to tell us about themselves and what they're planning on doing in the next 2 years? Because we got 2 years, right? 2 years now he's gone and you have a job. Unless we hire you full time.
So, in response to what are we going to be doing, there is such a wide range, and each community, from my point of view, each community has very similar needs as the others, but they also have different ones. So each of us are going to have to work within our communities to develop those connections. A lot of us already have connections to the communities that we're going to be working with. My background is I moved to Ridgecrest in 2003. My husband works on base. I'm a general contractor. I'm a real estate broker. I've been on a school board. I have a ranch. I have a wide variety of experiences. I've been involved with businesses. My last job was the Chamber of Commerce here, and they weren't real happy that I moved on, but they're really excited to see what we can all do together. My goal is to work with all of the existing groups and community leaders in town, find out and verify what they're doing, and then work with them to make sure that we have an overall community plan that we have all worked on together, and then identify who's already working on those specific things, and then moving forward on the things that we want for the future. So there's a lot going on here in Ridgecrest with the base, with being fairly isolated from everybody else. And I think there's a lot of people here in this room who are already working on things, and I'm here to work with them and support efforts.
Thanks, Greg, for putting us on the spot. I have actually been trying not to lose my voice, so I'm going to keep it short. I'm Alexis Sveda. I echo a lot of what you had to say. We have goals we need to meet. I've made a lot of connections in, I think, all of these communities over the years. And I find if we think regionally, Doug will back me up on this, if we think regionally, what is good for one community is going to be good for all of us. And that's why working together is so very important. My background, oh gosh. Teaching background, my husband is retired military, still works for the military. We're very tied to Edwards Air Force Base. All the moves, eclectic resume. But about 3 years ago, I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce in California City and built it up to what it is now. Along the line, also had to fill in the economic development void, and now I've segued into this. And really looking forward to working with all the connections I've already made and making more connections. And for me, it's going to be very interesting because I am working with 2 incorporated cities, Tehachapi and California City, but then I also have unincorporated Boron, Rosamond, and then we also have the communities that are around Tehachapi that are unincorporated, and that's sort of new territory for me, and very much looking forward to it.
I'm Amanda. Specifically, I have Mojave, so I will be working with the Air and Spaceport, the Mojave Foundation, mostly with the community to try to just boost retail and housing and infrastructure and change some of the street lights and stuff like that to make it easier and more appealing to people to want to work there and live there and stay there. I have lived in the Antelope Valley my entire life. Lancaster, Palmdale. I live, for those of you that know the area, Bacchus, between Rosamond and Mojave. I was working in Tehachapi and California City prior to this job at the libraries. So part of this grant is also going to allow us to make STEM facilities in all of the libraries in each of these locations. So we will all be trying to boost the education for children, teenagers, and adults. So there will be programming and volunteers to help us facilitate that within the libraries. So yeah, most of my background is through the library. I went to CSUB and graduated with a master's degree through there in May. So this is my first big project, and I'm really excited to get to be a part of it.
To help us and an extension of our economic development arms locally. And your offices are going to be at the Mojave Spaceport, is that right?
Mine is.
Right, but you know, 2 years is going to go quick. It really is. And so by the time we figure out, get a plan, and as a matter of fact, we already have a plan because it's the East Kern diversification study, right? That's the playbook. And in Tehachapi, we've already actually met a lot of those, but we want to continue moving forward together. So I would suggest, we need to meet on a regular basis, individually and as a group, and really support this effort, because we have a really good opportunity, and there may be more funding later, right, to move this to the next level, which would be amazing. We talk about innovation and being isolated. Let's de-isolate ourselves, right? We have an opportunity here. So thank you.
So any other comments from the crowd? Well, great, I guess we're until next, we need to get there.
I just want to thank you all for coming to Ridgecrest. Okay, we're not the best city. We're just a blessed good city. So thank you for being a part of us, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of it.
It's a nice drive up.
Where's the next meeting?
Pop down on the car, and the weather was nice.
Well, it's March 14th, but where we
got me out of the mud.
Right,
Okay.
if we have it, yeah, looking to the West Kern location, which is great idea, novel concept, and would like.
So is the focus, so you say the next East Kern meeting is going to be in West Kern?
And that'll be the first
Okay,
time.
so that would be really good. So what we need to do is be ready to go to get the invites to the key players over there, and then have something to suck them in to what we're doing, like a brief to what China Lake does, or a brief of what your museum, the assets, a tour of your assets over there, and have that all ready to go, and that'll be the lead off. It'll be an intro of East Kern to us, and we'll invite all these other players.
And now we have the new economic developers that can help on those presentations.
So do we need to invite, is there some big, huge Air Force hero that can come have a president, have a common name, or as a China Laker, an admiral or something could come and say, to kick us off? Or something big that's interesting. Or how about Mojave, Spaceport? And who flew the Galactic? Who's the pilot for the Galactic? Does anybody know?
Leif Erikson.
So did he come?
Well, he didn't fly the ship that went into space. He flew the drop ship. He and
Could he
Kelly
come and give
Latimer.
a presentation of what he did?
It's
We need a,
possible.
what I'm trying to do is get a draw.
Right, her or Kelly Latimer. She's
I think we should make this, try to make this the most interesting meeting we could ever assemble.
Richard Branson be available.
Personally, I don't think he's interesting.
Maybe we could have the two field reps,
I was gonna
1
say,
and 2 work
let us
together
work on it.
and create a program. Because we really need to have a military type program. We can't be this loose, right? When we're over there, we need to have somebody talk about something, you've got 3 minutes, that's it, right? And showcase that particular piece of East Kern. So if the two field reps could work together and get that done and organize, it'd be great.
Can we also get a different title rather than call it the East Kern Alliance meeting? Maybe do something with a hook like opportunities in East Kern. And then that's something easier for me to promote to my mail list, because I have an extensive mail list in Bakersfield. Richard does as well. And then it gets it out in the business community a little bit more.
Right, we know it, I mean, the slogan is innovation rising, so right, something catchy that, what sizzle you mean?
yeah, East Kern Rising.
Yeah. And then I know our EDC board meeting is coming up in 10 days, so we'll make the formal announcement to the board, and we'll really push the Western, both public and private sector folks to attend. Great idea.
So you're gonna give us jobs to do?
Well,
That's what I mean, you'll give all of us
Yes.
jobs to do.
And the goal is to have that March 14th meeting, the most exciting meeting East Kern could produce.
Right.
That's our goal.
Yes.
Let's do it.
How's your schedule on that day?
I'm not available.
Okay.
Good luck. I'm there. Whatever you need.
Tuesdays aren't good days, but Thursdays are.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for hosting us again. Thank you.
Thank you.